I married Lisa, convinced she was my soulmate. For 6 years, we enjoyed a steady, albeit unremarkable happiness. We raised 3 children, 2 of whom were twins, who became the focal point of our lives. Together, we crafted our existence in a suburban area filled with quiet streets and well-kept lawns. I cherish those early days. The stillness of suburban nights enveloped me in a sense of security, as if we were in a bubble where nothing truly terrible could occur. After work, we would unwind with laughter echoing throughout the house, the twins cooing in their cribs, while our eldest child attempted to toddle around the living room, often. When I returned home, Lisa's smile would illuminate the hallway. She would welcome me with a warm embrace, a playful complaint about diapers or dinner, and everything felt flawless. So flawless, in fact, that I never envisioned how swiftly it could all come crashing down. It all began last year with a single decision Lisa made without seeking my input. That decision devastated our marriage, so completely that it left me with nothing but feelings of betrayal, anger, and an overwhelming desire for revenge. If anyone had told me back then that Lisa's loyalty could be so fragile, I would have dismissed them as a liar. Yet the reality is that loyalty can disappear more quickly than you might think, when someone decides their partner is no longer significant. One night, she dropped the bombshell. Her twin sister Sarah and Sarah's husband Kevin were hoping for a baby. They had faced years of struggle, and Sarah's doctor had suggested surrogacy. Lisa intended to be that surrogate. However, the blow that truly broke me wasn't the idea itself. It was the realization that she had already initiated the process without consulting me first. I can vividly recall that moment, as if it were burned into my memory. We were sitting on the couch together, physically present, but mentally miles apart. A late-night comedy show flickered on the screen, largely ignored. Lisa looked at me, phone in hand, and said almost nonchalantly, "Grant, there's something I've decided to do." It's the informal tone. She used triggered alarm bells in my mind. Lisa only adopted that manner when she had something significant to share, something she was resolute about pursuing, no matter my feelings. My stomach twisted in knots. I turned off the TV. I inquired, "What's happening? You seem serious?" She tucked a dark strand of hair behind her ear. "I'm going to be Sarah's surrogate." I blinked in surprise. "What do you mean by that?" Lisa met my gaze, her voice unwavering. "Sarah is unable to have a baby. She has undergone several IVF attempts, but none have succeeded. The doctors recommended a surrogate, and since Sarah and I share the same DNA, I'm essentially the ideal candidate. I've already contacted the clinic." She stated it so plainly that for a moment, I thought she was joking. When I noticed her expression was serious, my heart began to race. "You've already," I stammered, swallowing. "Hard, Lisa. Are you saying you're going to carry Kevin's child?" She took a deep breath. "Sarah's child and Kevin's child. It would be their embryo. Genetically speaking, I'm merely the carrier." I felt my jaw clench tightly. "And when exactly did you make this decision without informing me?" She lifted her chin defiantly. "I knew you'd panic. This was a choice I made because Sarah is my twin. I can't bear to see her unhappy. Kevin and I discussed it thoroughly. And I'm sure this is what I want to do. Kevin and you discussed it thoroughly." I echoed, a seething coil of anger twisting in my stomach. "That's wonderful. In the meantime, I'm your husband and I was the last to know. Do you have any clue how this makes me feel?" Her eyes sparkled with irritation. "Grant, I apologize. But this is my body. I'm going through with this, whether you approve or not. I had hoped for your support. And yes, I should have informed you earlier, but I was aware you'd attempt to dissuade me, and this is far too significant." I could hardly utter a word for a moment. My throat feels constricted with rage. "So that's the deal. You're asking me to accept a pregnancy that isn't mine, witness you bear another man's child in our home, and you believe I'll just grin and applaud?" Lisa placed her phone down, folding her arms. "You can label it however you wish, but this is going to happen. Sarah and Kevin are relying on me, and if you truly love me, you'll honor that." A chilling calm enveloped me, more terrifying than outright. Fury, Honor? You don't demonstrate honor. By catching your husband off guard with a decision that affects our marriage, you're not merely making choices about your body. You're making choices about our family. She rose, fists tightened. Stop pretending to be the victim. Sarah is family too. And I'm rescuing her. If you can't recognize that, then perhaps I've misjudged you all these years. That last remark pushed me over the edge. Did you overestimate me? Lisa, if you proceed with this, it will tear us apart. She brushed past me, her shoulders tense. Then perhaps we aren't as resilient as I thought. I lingered behind. Boiling with rage, my heart raced so violently that I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. I attempted to breathe through the fury, but it felt like a betrayal so deep I couldn't even name it. The silent house weighed heavily on me, thick with the aftermath of her revelation. And even though I told myself to calm down, I already understood. Everything had shifted. The following days were fraught with tension. Lisa spoke candidly about doctor visits, fertility medications, and implantation timelines. She shared details as if we were merely discussing grocery lists, not a life-changing surrogacy. I could hardly listen without feeling nauseous. Each mention drove home the fact that she had made a decision that obliterated any sense of partnership we once had. 2 nights after she first broke the news, I returned home to discover a box from a fertility clinic in our refrigerator. Vials of medication, syringes, and instructions were strewn across the kitchen table. Lisa was engrossed in a thick stack of papers. "What is all this?" I asked sharply, pointing at the items. She looked up at me. "Hormone treatments. I need to begin them so my body will be prepared for the embryo."
Transfer.
The clinic sent them sooner than anticipated. I stared at her in shock. "You didn't think this deserved a discussion?" She shrugged. "I already mentioned it. We're beyond discussions. I'm moving on." My voice emerged low, yet strained. "You're disregarding my emotions in this matter. You don't realize that you're driving me away, do you?" She rolled her eyes. "Quit being so dramatic. It's been 9 months. Then I give the baby to Sarah. It's not as if I'm substituting our children with another. This is to assist my sister. You can justify it however you wish." I muttered, "But if you proceed with this, I assure you, I won't remain in this marriage." She lifted her gaze, her eyes hard. "Grant, you're welcome to leave if your pride can't accept my choice." My cheeks flushed. Pride. This isn't about pride at all. It's entirely about partnership. You completely caught me off guard. You discussed it with Kevin. So what if I spoke to Kevin? Her voice escalated as she insisted. He's the father of the embryo. He had to be included in the conversation. I let out a humorless chuckle. "And I'm the husband you made vows with. Where does that become irrelevant now?" She picked up the papers once more, effectively brushing me aside. "We're finished here, Grant." I stood there, a weight in my chest. She couldn't even recognize the harm she was causing. My fingers itched with the desire to snatch the fertility papers from her grasp and shred them. But I understood that it would only make me appear unhinged, so I pivoted on my heel, left her to her new endeavor, and attempted to calm my breathing. That night, as I lay awake in bed, I made a silent resolution. If Lisa was determined to navigate this journey on her own, then so be it. I would file for divorce because no matter how I looked at it, I couldn't bear to see her belly swell with Kevin's child. When Lisa discovered I had reached out to a lawyer, she stormed into the living room where I was assisting our eldest with homework. Fury emanated from her. "How dare you?" she spat, being careful not to disturb our child, who was engrossed in coloring. I set down the crayon, instructed my child to stay put, and led Lisa into the hallway. "For your voice," I said. "I don't want the kids overhearing our arguments." She shot me a glare. "So, you thought it was okay to rush to a lawyer and initiate divorce proceedings?" My chest felt like it was on fire. "I warned you about what would happen if you proceeded without me. You did it anyway. I'm done being overlooked." She shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. They were tears fueled by anger. "Grant, we can resolve this. You just need to accept that. I'm moving forward with this, then we can move on." I raised a hand. "No, you're not understanding me. There is no solution. You went behind my back, misused our finances, and signed up for surrogacy. As if our marriage was an afterthought to your sister's child. Did you really think I would just say, "Sure, honey, that's wonderful"? Her lips trembled. I never imagined it would lead to divorce. God. You're so heartless. I let out a short laugh. Maybe I am now, but I wasn't cold when you made that choice. That's what changed me. She opened her mouth to respond, then abruptly closed it. If she wanted to hurl more accusations, she seemed too enraged to articulate them. Finally, she turned on her heel and stormed upstairs. I just stood there, heart racing, wishing I could convince myself this was all just a bad dream in our state. There's a required 1-year separation before a divorce can be finalized. Lisa was aware of that. And during that year, we would be living under the same roof, at least for a time. She refused to leave, insisting she had nowhere else to go, that she needed bed rest at times, and that the kids deserved a stable home. I didn't want to uproot my children either, so I put up with her presence. Although put up with is a generous phrase. She occupied our guest room, or sometimes the living room couch. While I took the master bedroom, we moved like strangers sharing a space, hardly speaking. The kids noticed, of course, and asked why Mom and Dad no longer sat together at dinner. We tried to maintain civility in front of them, but tension seeped into every corner of the house. Lisa's twin sister, Sarah, arrived one weekend with Kevin and TOH. I discovered them in the living room, perusing baby strollers and a shiny catalog, as if they owned the place. Our kids were outside playing, so I had no obligation to feign politeness. Kevin stood up from my recliner when I entered. "Hey, Grant," he said awkwardly. "We were just, making plans for the baby." Lisa rubbed her belly, which had just started to show Kevin and Sarah want. "To ensure we're ready, I need certain things in the house to feel at ease." I stared at her. Why can't Kevin purchase all that for his own home, since that's where the baby will eventually reside? Kevin let out a nervous laugh. Well, we thought it would be wise to have supplies here while Lisa's pregnant. I interrupted him. "Don't you dare discuss supplies in my house as if it's your personal baby lounge." Lisa's face turned red. "You're being unreasonable? Do you expect me to stand for hours in their place if I'm feeling nauseous or need to rest?" "I live here, Grant." I gritted my teeth. "Yes, you do. But perhaps Kevin and Sarah should show some respect for me and not treat this house like their baby planning headquarters." Kevin glanced at Sarah, who was standing behind the couch, arms crossed. Sarah shot me a cold stare. "Grant, it's not like we enjoy being here," she said. "We're just trying to make this as easy for Lisa as we can." My fury ignited fiercely. "Let me take a wild guess. You think? I'll just accept this. Perhaps I should massage Lisa's feet. Better cravings during pregnancy. All for a child. It isn't mine." Sarah raised her hands in frustration. "For heaven's sake, we are family. This shouldn't revolve around mine or yours. It's about supporting one another." I squinted at them. "It ceased to be about family when you both involved Lisa in this, without my knowledge." Kevin exhaled in frustration. "Listen, I understand. This is uncomfortable. Uncomfortable doesn't even begin to describe it," I retorted. "But if you truly care about Lisa, then create a cozy environment in your home. Purchase everything from that catalog. Just don't do it here. If you continue to show up without warning, we're going to have a major issue." Lisa stood there, her indignation palpable. "You can't exclude them from the house. This is my home as well." I faced her. "Maybe you should have considered that before choosing to share your pregnancy with them, instead of your husband." We remained there, glaring at each other until Sarah took hold of Kevin's arm. "Let's leave," she said, her voice trembling with rage. "We don't need this." They rushed out. Lisa turned sharply, jabbing a finger at me. "You're behaving like a child. I hope you understand. You're pushing away our children's aunt and uncle." I shrugged. I'd prefer to push them away than allow them to stroll in as if my marriage is insignificant. She stormed away, leaving me with the seething anger that had become a nearly constant companion in my stomach. The months that followed settled into a bleak routine. Lisa's belly grew. She grumbled about morning sickness, back pain, and relentless exhaustion. She anticipated my concern. She'd ask, "Grant, could you fetch me some crackers from the kitchen? Could you grab me a pillow for my back?" I turned her down every single time. She'd spit, "What kind of heartless man are you? You can stand by while the mother of your children suffers like this and not lift a finger?" I'd retort, "You're Kevin's surrogate. Let him deal with it if he can't reach Sarah. I have my own issues like raising our kids and keeping the household running." She'd storm off, often in tears, lamenting my cruelty. But every tear she shed landed on the hardened shell of my heart. I reminded myself she had shown no kindness to me when she chose to carry another man's child without even consulting me. So, I extended her the same courtesy. None. She attempted to manipulate my feelings. Late one night, she knocked on my door and said, "I can't sleep. My legs are cramping. Could you massage them like you used to when I was expecting our twins?" I watched her from the doorway, her expression a blend of desperation and hope. Then I replied flatly, "No," and closed the door in her face. My children sensed the tension. Our eldest asked, "Dad, why don't you love Mom anymore?" I swallowed the bitter truth and replied softly, "Sometimes adults don't see eye to eye, but I love you, and I'll always be here for you." The innocence in my child's gaze made me want to confront Kevin and Sarah for putting us in this situation. But more than that, it made me resent Lisa for allowing it to unfold. As the months dragged on, Lisa's family became more involved in the conflict. Her mother called me, her voice laced with condescension. "Grant, I can't believe how selfish you're being. Lisa is performing a wonderful selfless act for her sister. How can you refuse her your support?" I responded coldly, "Maybe you should ask your daughter why she did it, without informing me. I owe her no support. That baby isn't mine." Her father attempted to intimidate me, "Young man," he growled over the phone, "you're heading down a very dark path. If you don't assist Lisa, we'll ensure you regret it." I smirked at the phone, though he couldn't see me. "That's interesting because I already regret trusting your daughter with my marriage. Good luck with your threats." They disconnected the call on me. I was certain that the whole extended family saw me as a monster. However, I was also aware that the court would recognize the facts. Lisa was expecting a child that wasn't mine. It was partially funded by our shared finances without my approval. That was her responsibility. One of the most intense confrontations occurred in the 7th month. Lisa, her belly round and heavy, came home one evening with bags of groceries. She struggled to carry them. Almost dropping one on the porch, she called out, "Grant, can you help me, please? My back is killing me." I opened the door, arms crossed. "Ask Kevin or Sarah," I replied. "They're the reason you're in this situation." Her eyes shimmered with tears, but I noticed the anger simmering beneath. "I just spent hours at the hospital, dealing with some checkups. I'm worn out. I'm still your wife, whether you want to acknowledge it or not." I scoffed. "Not for long, and certainly not in spirit. You made that abundantly clear." She let out a cry of frustration and turned to drag the bags inside by herself. A few cans tumbled out, rolling across the porch, but I remained still. She ended up bruising her forearm, trying to haul everything in at once. Breathless, she placed the groceries on the kitchen table and shot me a glare. "You can't keep punishing me like this," she spat. I raised an eyebrow. "I'm not punishing you. I'm simply refusing to take on the role of the supportive husband that you discarded." She placed a hand on her belly, tears flowing down her cheeks. "When this baby arrives, you'll regret being so heartless." I laughed, a sound completely lacking in humor. "Trust me, I won't, because you'll be gone, and this child will be out of our lives." She gasped, as if I'd hit her, then stormed into the guest room, leaving me in a house that felt oppressively quiet despite the chaos. I breathed out, questioning if I had gone too far, but every time sympathy for her threatened to weaken my resolve. I reminded myself that she had made a one-sided decision that disrespected our marriage. My anger remained steadfast. When Lisa unexpectedly went into labor around the 8th month, it was just after midnight, I heard her moaning in the hallway, followed by frantic knocks on my bedroom door. "Grant, she cried out, her voice shaking with pain. My water broke. Oh God. Contractions are starting. Please help me. I opened the door to find her face twisted in agony, hands pressed against her large belly. Sweat clung to her hair. For a brief moment, the memory of assisting her through labor with our own children flashed in my mind, but then resentment pushed it away. I'm not taking you to the hospital, I said coldly. That's Kevin's responsibility. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Kevin's not answering. Sarah's phone is going directly to voicemail. I have to get to the hospital immediately. I shrugged, stepping back. Call for an ambulance. She clutched. The door frame, another contraction tearing through her. Grant, please. You can't just leave me to suffer here. I locked eyes with her. Touch me, she stumbled. Tears streaming down her face. You're right. You're cruel. I gave a brief nod. That's the consequence of ignoring your spouse's emotions. Good. Luck with the baby. I'm heading back to bed. She let out a cry as I shut the door. She fumbled in the hallway. Likely calling 911 in just 15 minutes. Paramedics showed up. The ambulance lights flashed across my window. I could hear them taking her away. Her fleeting moment of guilt nudged at me. But I suppressed it. She had chosen to ignore me. Why should? I hurried to her side when the child she carried wasn't mine. The following morning, my phone was inundated with calls from Lisa's mother. Screaming voicemails accused me of abandoning Lisa during her labor. I deleted them all without listening beyond the first few seconds. She wanted a baby for her sister, so let her depend on her sister's family. Lisa and the baby remained in the hospital for several days. The newborn, a girl, was premature but stable. Sarah had her own health issues. So Kevin was stretched thin, rushing between two hospital rooms. Went on with my daily routine, dropping the kids off at school, heading to work, and preparing dinner. When Lisa's mother called to inform me that Lisa would be back in a few days, I merely replied, "That's her decision," ended the call. I was in the living room, engrossed in a book when Lisa finally showed up. She looked pale and worn out. Carrying the newborn in a portable car seat, she placed the seat down, let out a long breath, and collapsed onto the couch. The baby stirred, emitting a soft whimper. I gazed at that infant. A small pink reminder of the surrogacy that shattered. My marriage, so? I asked, my tone sharp. Why are you here with the baby? Shouldn't it be with Sarah? Lisa shut her eyes. Sarah's still in the hospital, recovering from complications. Kevin's overwhelmed. They requested me to keep the baby here for a few weeks, I scoffed. They requested, or did you volunteer? She shot back. Is there a difference? I can't abandon her. She's defenseless. You should have considered that before you chose to be a surrogate. I replied, but let's be clear. I'm not lifting a finger. If you're too exhausted to deal with the crying, that's your issue. She rubbed her forehead, tear rolling down her cheek. Have you always been this heartless, or did I drive you to it? She murmured, as if she were speaking more to herself than to me. That's a question you might ponder at night when the baby is wailing, I responded. Now, if you'll pardon me, I have actual children to tend to. She recoiled as if I'd struck her yet. She remained silent while I turned away to prepare dinner. For the following month, the nights were filled with the baby's cries. Lisa would wander about, half asleep, attempting to warm bottles. She'd approach me, dark circles under her eyes, pleading for assistance each time I turned her down. Please, she pleaded one night, tears falling onto the bottle she held. I need just half an hour to rest. The baby has been crying for hours. I maintained my stare. Unyielding, go call Kevin or your mother. She let out a frustrated sob and turned away, the baby's cries resonating. In the hallway, I felt a brief pang of guilt for the child. It had done nothing wrong. But this was Lisa's responsibility, not mine. I wouldn't let her escape the consequences. Lisa's parents visited frequently, shaking their fingers in my face, hurling insults, monster coward, unfit husband. At times, Lisa's father attempted to confront me in the kitchen. Listen here. He'd say, you should feel ashamed. Lisa is experiencing postpartum issues. She requires rest. You can't simply abandon her. I'd glare at him. She should have thought of that before ignoring my boundaries. I would shoot him a fierce look. She ought to have considered that before disregarding my limits. Let Kevin take care of the baby. Let your family manage it, not my child. Not my concern, he would storm off, muttering curses under his breath. It was an unending symphony of blame. I bore it with a grim sense of satisfaction. Lisa's relatives believed I was devoid of compassion. But thus far, the law was in my favor. Especially when financial matters came into play, the divorce proceedings were sluggish, yet they progressed little by little. My attorney provided proof that Lisa had accessed our joint funds to cover specific surrogacy-related costs at times. Even forging my signature court records laid out the timeline. Lisa's blatant deceit, her dismissal of my objections, her misappropriation of marital assets. The judge viewed forgery with particular disdain. In the meantime, Lisa's attorney attempted to portray me as a heartless man who abandoned his expectant wife. However, since the baby wasn't mine and she had concealed her surrogacy intentions, her claims lacked substance. Ironically, Lisa's twin sister and Kevin remained quiet regarding financial issues, most likely because they were relieved they wouldn't be responsible if Lisa emptied our accounts. They merely desired the baby. Yet, with Sarah's ongoing health problems and Kevin's unstable employment, couldn't even secure full custody immediately. The baby's presence in our home turned into a strange, tension-filled situation that everyone despised but had to tolerate. By the time we arrived at the final hearing, Lisa had physically recuperated but was frazzled. Looking after a baby that wasn't hers to keep, she trapped me in the living room. 2 weeks before the court date, the baby peacefully sleeping in a bassinet, she stated plainly, I searched for my laptop. What for? She paused, then crossed her arms. My doctor advises me to concentrate on recovering from postpartum. I shouldn't be in a rush to find a job. I raised an eyebrow. You're no longer my responsibility, Lisa. Her lips tightened. I'm still the mother of your 3 kids? She retorted. I'm not referring to the surrogacy money. I'm talking about funds for my living expenses. To feed our kids when they're with me, to cover my share of the bills. I closed my laptop slowly. Once we're divorced, I'll fulfill my obligation to pay child support, as mandated by law. I'm not providing you with spousal support. Her eyes blazed with anger. I deserve some financial stability. I gave up my body. Comfort for your sister, I interrupted. Not for me. That's where we differ. Her voice shook with emotion. You're incredibly heartless. You don't care that I'm battling postpartum depression? I looked at her intently. I care about our children, not about the baby that belongs to Kevin or your postpartum that you chose. You created this situation. Lisa now lie in it. She pressed her lips together tightly. Tears began to form in her eyes. You'll regret it, she said, her voice trembling with anger and sadness. I shook my head. You've mentioned that before. The only regret here is that we find ourselves in this situation at all. She swallowed hard, casting a glance at the baby asterisk. Grant, it pains me to say this, but you're not the man I once knew. I let out a hollow laugh. How are you still the woman I married? Life evolves, Lisa. She stormed away, leaving me in silence. The baby continued to sleep, unaware of the chaos surrounding it. In the final week leading up to the court date, Lisa chose to move out, taking the baby to her mother's house until Sarah was well enough to take custody. She hurriedly packed, boxes crashing together, tears streaming down her face as she folded her clothes. Our children, puzzled, asked if Mom was leaving for good. She tried to comfort them, assuring them that she'd visit often and that she still loved them. They nodded, though sorrow was evident on their small faces. On the day she departed, she stood in the foyer, the baby carrier at her feet, a small suitcase. In her hand, she looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed. One last time, Grant, I'm pleading with you not to do this. Don't finalize the divorce. I'll find a way to mend things. Please. I felt an odd tug in my chest, but I let it go. To ease things, we would need to turn back time, because that's the only solution. You can't reverse what you've done, eh? Tear trickled down her cheek. I never thought I'd lose you. I just wanted to help Sarah. I nodded, feeling bitter. Well, you helped Sarah, and in doing so, you destroyed our marriage. Farewell, Lisa. She took a deep breath, grabbed the baby carrier, and walked out. The door clicked softly behind her, echoing. In the vacant house, I shut my eyes, releasing a trembling breath. For the first time, I experienced a sense of relief. We were almost finished at the final court hearing. Lisa was seated at one table with her attorney. I was at another table with mine. Kevin and Sarah sat in the gallery, both showing the same worried expression. The judge was a serious-looking woman who had gone through all the paperwork. Lisa's lawyer made an emotional plea about how Lisa was left alone during her pregnancy, and how I had been emotionally abusive. My lawyer provided a detailed timeline. Lisa made the decision to be a surrogate without my agreement. She used marital funds for the procedure and forged my signature to proceed. I had consistently expressed my refusal and established a boundary that she disregarded. When the judge spoke, her voice was sharp. She determined that Lisa's actions showed a clear disregard for our marital partnership. She acknowledged that the baby was not mine, so I had no financial or parental responsibilities. As for spousal support, she found no justification for me to pay, particularly due to Lisa's misuse of funds. The judge also granted me primary custody of our 3 children. Lisa was given visitation rights, contingent on her proving a stable living situation. Finally, she was instructed to reimburse part of the misappropriated marital funds. As the judge announced her decision, Lisa's expression fell apart. Tears streamed down her face. She covered her mouth with one hand, her shoulders trembling. Kevin and Sarah exchanged alarmed glances. I could feel my heart pounding. But more than that, I felt a sense of vindication. My revenge was fulfilled. I had left the wife who betrayed me, and the law was on my side. We stepped into the corridor outside the courtroom. Lisa came closer, her eyes puffy. "Grant," she murmured, her voice shaking, "I never wanted it to end like this. I'm sorry. I genuinely am. I made a mistake, but I never expected you to cut me off like this." I looked at her, recalling the nights I had begged her not to go through with it. Her dismissive responses, her arrogance. "You chose to prioritize Kevin and Sarah's needs over ours, and you lied about it. That's more than just a mistake. It ruined us." She exhaled sharply. "I just hope you can forgive me one day." My gaze stayed icy. "You forged my signature. You ignored my pleas when I asked you not to do this. Forgiveness isn't that easy to come by. Goodbye, Lisa." Sarah moved closer, attempting to touch my arm. "Grant, can't you see she's sorry? She did it for me." I pulled my arm away. "You got what you wanted. Sarah, that baby is yours. Now you can face the consequences. You and Kevin can help Lisa if you believe she deserves it." I'm finished. They stood there, silent, as I made my way to the exit. The corridor seemed brighter as I walked away, as if a heavy burden had been lifted. In the weeks following the final decree, Lisa moved in with her mother. The baby remains with her until Sarah fully recovers. Whenever I encountered Lisa during custody exchanges of our 3 kids, she appeared frail and regretful. She would inquire about how the children were doing. I would respond politely but maintain my distance. She would cast longing glances at me, as if anticipating some sign of affection. I gave none. Eventually Kevin and Sarah took over the responsibility of raising their baby, rumors suggested. They were struggling financially. Kevin's job had reduced his hours, and Sarah's medical bills were accumulating. Lisa, financially exhausted, found it difficult to secure stable employment. However, my kids were thriving once the tension left the home. She settled into a peaceful routine. School days, weekend outings, family movie nights. No more crying baby to disturb everyone at midnight. No more silent battles in the hallways. Occasionally, Lisa would text or email me, expressing her regrets about how she never anticipated Kevin's unreliability or Sarah's ongoing health problems. She noted that being a surrogate hadn't truly benefited anyone in the end. It had only led to more chaos. I provided polite, minimal responses, only addressing our children's schedules or needs. One day, my oldest child looked up at me while playing with Legos. "Dad, do you still love Mom?" I hesitated, kneeling beside them. "I care about her because she is your mother, but sometimes adults change and they break." Trust they appear to accept it, returning to their small plastic bricks, having resolved the matter in their minds. Children can be so straightforward. It's one of the reasons I love them deeply. There's no facade, no hidden motives. Months turned into a year. With the divorce well behind me, I finally felt liberated. I retained the house, a stable job, and primary custody. Lisa came and went in the children's lives, never quite finding her balance again. Kevin and Sarah welcomed their new baby. But from what I heard, it wasn't a fairy tale. They faced medical expenses, financial disputes, and had little time to assist Lisa. She turned to her parents, who were willing to help only to a certain extent. People sometimes asked, "Why didn't you support her after the birth?" It was clear she was overwhelmed, and I would respond, "She made a choice that excluded me, and she had to deal with the consequences." They often shook their heads, calling me ruthless. Perhaps I was, but in a marriage, respect and honesty are essential. She demonstrated neither, ultimately. My revenge wasn't about violence or public disgrace. It was about allowing her to confront every single consequence of her decision. Alon withdrew the support she had taken for granted and let her experience how harsh the world could be when she disregarded her husband's trust. The judge agreed with me, and so did the harsh realities of life. If you ask me now if I regret being so ruthless, I'll say no. Lisa struck the first blow by betraying me. I responded in kind by giving her exactly what she wanted: independence. No shared finances, no emotional support, no illusions that we would remain married through a pregnancy I never agreed to. Ultimately, I gained my freedom and my children, while she struggled with the selfless decision that broke our marriage. That's how surrogacy for her sister transformed Lisa from my cherished wife into a stranger, and how I discovered my contentment in not rescuing her from her own decisions. If that seems harsh, then harshness was the cost of my dignity, and it was a cost I was more than ready to bear.